Hello everybody, today on the channel we are talking ethics and influencers, and I'm going to be shining a light on a little dark corner of the industry that I think would rather remain hidden, but I think deserves to be dragged out into the light. So then, before we get on to the topic at hand, I want to say a big thank you to everybody that tuned in to my last video filmed here in the garage, which was about this recent spate of Ferrari F40 incidents. And I have heard you all loud and clear, because from that video, your main takeaway was your concern about how cold I was, because I was filming that video here in my garage when it was about 2 degrees outside, and you could all see my breath, which some found slightly distracting, some found slightly amusing, and some people somehow were quite angered by this. And many of you said, James, you should buy yourself a heater. And so I'm sure you'll all be delighted to hear that with the proceeds of that very video, I have treated myself to this bad boy down here, an electric heater, which I've had running for the past 2 hours. And in that time, it has made absolutely no difference to the temperature in here. It's still just as chilly as it was before, and the only reason you can't see my breath in here today is because you can't see it outside. It is mercifully a little bit warmer, but fear not, even in that video, I wasn't actually cold because, as a former motorcyclist, I just layered up. And I've done the same today, so don't worry about me. However, your concern is greatly appreciated. So then, on to the topic at hand, that of ethics and influencers. And this is a video I have been wanting to make for quite some time, but the problem is I didn't want to make it based simply on speculation, conjecture, and hearsay. It was, however, a video I decided I had to make when I received this email. And it comes from a PR firm called PHA. Never heard of them before in my life. And they were representing a car manufacturer called JAYEMM, who I had actually heard of, but only because in my old hometown there is actually a JAYEMM dealer. But until I saw that, I had no idea what it was, where it was from, or anything else. Now, I have subsequently found out this is a Chinese manufacturer, and I'll tell you a little bit more about them in a moment. But first, I would like to read you this email in full. Prepare yourself, it's about 1.5 pages worth. Hi Jay, I hope you're well and having a great start to the new year. This was sent, by the way, on the 6th of January, so only a few weeks ago. I'm getting in touch with an exciting exclusive invitation for you to take part in a paid campaign for global leading car company JAYEMM, who incidentally were only launched 2 years ago, who are launching their new J7 plug-in hybrid in the UK in January. To celebrate the launch, JAYEMM are inviting a select few of the UK's top opinion leaders in the automotive space to take part in a 650-mile drive across the UK in the J7 on the 14th to 15th of January 2025. All well and good. I get emails like this all the time, and about 6 years ago, I took nearly all of the opportunities I was given. Unfortunately today, by the time I usually get these things, I'm already busy, and so I'd rather prefer to wait a little while and get the car for a week rather than have it a few hours to give you my full and in-depth opinion. The fact it's a new manufacturer doesn't really make a bit of difference to me. If anything, it's more exciting, it's interesting, because there's a lot more to explore and talk about. So, what does the challenge entail? The race will take place over 2 days, and each driver will navigate to 3 pit stops before reaching their final destination. Each car will be fully charged and will have a full tank of fuel, and the challenge will be to arrive at the end destination with the most left in the tank at the end. The exact route will be up to each driver, and they will be encouraged to use their knowledge of hybrid vehicles to drive in the most efficient way possible whilst driving between pit stops and reaching the end. Food and accommodation will be covered, and drivers will have access to JAYEMM experts throughout the drive to discuss the performance and specs of the car as they plan their routes. So, a little bit unusual already, because here you're being told exactly what it is that you are going to be doing, which, as a journalist, I don't like being told what I'm going to do. It's not unusual for these things to have a start point and an end point, but a specific goal in mind? Well, that's not something I see quite so often. As part of the challenge, we're looking for our drivers to create content about their journey in the J7, both in long form for YouTube and short form for Instagram, with a quick turnaround of delivery. Posting dates will commence from 20th January 2025, with approval dates for the content being 18th of January for the first content. So a tight turnaround. Yeah, you're not kidding me. That is a quick turnaround time. Following this, we'll also be hosting an official launch event for the new J7 at Fairmont Windsor Park on the 30th of January 2025, and we'll be including attendance at this event in the deliverables for this campaign. Now, already things are changing quite a bit here. Not once ever have I seen a review opportunity for a car also stipulate that as part of it, I have to be present for a particular public event that isn't part of the driving and filming and all that stuff. And the use of the word campaign here implies something that you know what I'm talking about and I know what I'm talking about, but these guys here didn't talk about. Get onto this in a minute. Let me finish. Full deliverables would be as follows. Participation in a 2-day challenge, 14th to 15th January 2025. During this, the brand will also be capturing their own footage via drones, GoPro cameras within the cars, and additional filming at each pit stop, plus an award ceremony for the winner. One Instagram Reel teaser post to announce taking part in the challenge to go live on the 22nd or 23rd of January 2025. 3 to 4 Instagram story frames to promote the YouTube video and Hero brand video from JAYEMM social channels to go live 24th of January 2025. One long form video of the challenge for YouTube to go live between 25th and 28th January. One Instagram Reel with snippets from the challenge to link to the influencer's long form YouTube video launch to go live between 25th and 28th of January. Attendance at JAYEMM launch event 5:30 to 10 p.m. 30th of January 2025. 2 Instagram Reels showcasing JAYEMM launch event. 3 to 4 Instagram story frames showcasing JAYEMM launch event. Providing your raw footage captured throughout the challenge to be shared by 16th January 2025. Organic usage of all content for JAYEMM channels in the UK. Then, big one. Paid usage for all content for JAYEMM channels, brackets, max budget for boosting £5,000. Shared post analytics for all content. I would love to hear if you think this would be of interest to you in the first instance, and would you be able to share your rates, including usage and event attendance as well. I am more than happy to answer any questions and really excited to discuss this exciting launch campaign further. As it's quite a tight turnaround, if you could let me know if you're interested by tomorrow, that would be highly appreciated. Many thanks. Now, my response to this was, thank you very much for considering me and giving me the invite, but no, I do not take part in paid reviews. And in fairness to the email, the title of it says very clearly that this is a paid opportunity, so perhaps I'm being massively overdramatic and should have just ignored it. A problem for me, though, is that this kind of event looks and sounds very similar to those you might have seen in the past before, from myself and others, but beyond expenses, those definitely were not paid. And let's just call this what it is, shall we? This is not a collaboration. This is not a review opportunity. It's clear to me that these guys want me to make a commercial for them on the cheap. This is a request to make an advertisement. Nothing more, nothing less. Now, we live in a very interesting day and age, don't we? Where notions of journalism seem to be eroded with every tick of the clock. But to me, really, the difference between a journalist and an influencer has always been a fairly clear one. And if you're wondering what it is, well, dead simple. A journalist is not paid for a specific opinion. A journalist is paid for the time taken and the effort involved in order to formulate their opinion. And the theory goes that their opinion should be broadcast by whatever medium it is they work in, print, radio, TV, YouTube, regardless of whether it is a positive one or a negative one. If any company wishes to work with you and exert what you would call editorial control, telling you what you want to do, then that, to me, is an advertisement. It's very, very simple. But this stuff here, I've never in my life seen anything like this. Now, when you start one of my YouTube videos, you will see down in the corner a little bit that says paid promotion included. And this is referring specifically to the little trio of sponsors that I have at the beginning of the video. In the case of this one, it's Dodo Juice, CarVertical, and NOVE watches. I have to tick the box that will enable that one because they have paid me to tell you about their product. That is an advertisement. However, no car company ever has offered me anything beyond expenses to create any content for them, and no car company ever has told me to change anything that I've ever done or said beyond the realms of factual correctness. So for example, if I drive a car and I say this does 0 to 60 in 8 seconds and they say no it doesn't, it does it in 5 seconds, unless I've somehow measured and proven that I'm right, well, it is my job to make sure, where possible, that things go out correct. Contrary to popular belief, even manufacturers like Ferrari, when I give a negative opinion of something, provided it is my own opinion and it comes from my own experience and is backed up with a reason, that's fine. There is nothing they can say or do to influence what it is that I have to say. And I know there is often this notion and suspicion that every influencer out there has to say nice things about every company's product, lest they be blacklisted and never given anything again. But the reality is, I've slagged off loads of stuff from plenty of different companies, and on occasion even the company themselves, for example Porsche, and they still give me stuff. Because if you're honest, show your workings, then these companies are generally fairly understanding. And as is often the case, sometimes you might rankle the feathers of a particular PR person. But trust me, the world of PR is a pretty brutal one. Those positions change all the time, and so, yeah, sure, maybe you're not Flavour of the Month with Alfa Romeo today, but in 3 months somebody else will be there, if they're still in business, and maybe they'll like you a lot more. This has happened for me multiple times where it's got really nothing to do with the brand. Instead, it's the people there. There are companies that I tried to get in with for years and I just couldn't. And then one day somebody I knew moved there and all of a sudden it was a case of, what would you like from the fleet? This is just interpersonal relations, and I am well aware of the fact that I'm awful at that. Absolutely terrible. It's one of the reasons that I work for myself. I would be absolutely useless working for anybody else. I am not good at taking orders. I am not good at being told what to do. And that's another reason why I said no to this, because the list of demands here is absolutely ludicrous. And this is content that would have, as far as I'm concerned, absolutely zero journalistic merit. Because they are being very, very transparent about the fact that they are expecting a lot from me, and in return, of course, they're going to compensate me for my time. And the fact is, that, to me, is an advertisement. Now, they've even quoted a number here. I mean, they even say, and it's a little bit unclear as to what they mean, paid usage for all content for JQ channels. Max budget for boosting £5,000. I've never seen in an email anything quite so blatant. So they're throwing numbers like that around, which, just in case you're wondering, for some people that's a huge amount of money, and for others in this segment, that's not really enough to get them out of bed. Now, which is which, I couldn't tell you. I have my suspicions, but in reality, when it comes to most other influencers, I know just about as much as you do. Now, it's also worth pointing out that by the time you see this video, much of this content is going to go live, but I have not seen any of it. There has been, I believe, one short form Instagram post out, perhaps something on YouTube from one person, but I don't know who's involved in this event. I don't know how well it went. I don't know if they've actually kept to all of the deliverables. I don't know whether maybe everybody went back to JAYEMM and went, guys, this is ridiculous. This is not how it works. We want to just get in the car, drive it, and deliver our opinion. It is absolutely possible, completely, totally, 100% plausible that that's what happened. And I'm an idiot because I got myself out of what could have been a lovely couple of days having a nice jaunt across the countryside. But it is also very possible, entirely plausible, that you may also be very soon about to see a lot of content posted from a number of different channels that might not be quite as transparent as you would like it to be. Now, I absolutely cannot say this for certain, and I do not wish this video to be taken in an accusatory tone towards my fellow YouTubers and content creators. And the reality is that in this world, we have journalists, we have influencers, and then we have people in between, and that's absolutely fine. I don't want everybody out there doing car stuff to be trying to do what I'm doing, which is trying to emulate old school journalists of the 1990s. The fact there's a little less competition for me is, well, often a very, very good thing. And I've absolutely nothing against people making lots and lots of money just standing by cars, taking Instagram selfies of themselves and then going home. That'd be a lovely way to make a little bit of money. But sometimes I have encountered scenarios that really do stretch the possibilities of imagination. I'll give you one example. On one of the very, very first press launches I ever attended for a very sports-orientated car, somebody was sent in that didn't have a driving license. Yeah, somebody was telling you how great a particular car was, a very driver-orientated car. I'm not talking about a 7 Series, an S-Class, a Bentley, a Maybach, or a Rolls-Royce, where you'd be in the back of it and you could actually perhaps give still a valid opinion of it. No, I'm talking about an entertaining little hot hatchback. And somehow somebody thought the perfect person to test this had no driving ability whatsoever. I've been on other events with heritage fleet vehicles where people have come along that it turned out, and unfortunately the company in question didn't know this until the day, couldn't drive a manual. So of the, I think, 7 or 8 vehicles at this particular event, they could only actually drive one of them, which I think later broke. I'm not sure it was them that did it. I do know, however, that they had an awful lot to say about the consistency of their mashed potato at dinner that evening, and were far, far more animated about that than any of the, I thought, rather interesting vehicles that we were driving on that particular event. And I do also want to say something else in defense of my fellow content creators, because one thing that I see an awful lot in the comment section is people talking about the fact that we only ever give good reviews to manufacturers because they have wined and dined us, flown us out to fancy hotels. And allow me to tell you a few things right now. First off, yes, it's lovely, it's wonderful, it's brilliant. And when I was a very small channel with 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 subscribers, being able to do these things was an amazing opportunity. It was a validation of the career choice, the bold and, to be honest, kind of stupid decision that I'd made a year or two earlier. Today, though, I don't really take these opportunities because the reality is that for the time it would take to do one of these big press drives, I could sit in my garage and make half a dozen videos. I could have a couple of people come along and make a few different reviews. These are not great uses of time if you happen to have a fairly packed schedule. And again, if you want to try and be really journalistic about it, there is something to be said for being able to live with the car over an extended period, get to know it on your own roads. And I'm not unique in thinking this way at all. In fact, for many of the larger outlets, some of their magazines, they'll review a car twice. So you'll see it in Top Gear, you'll see it on Piston Heads, they'll be invited to the global launch where maybe they'll be able to take a car around a track for a few laps, have a quick blat up into the hills, but ultimately they'll say, look, we think it's going to be pretty good, but we really couldn't tell you for sure because we didn't have that long, unfamiliar roads. Sometimes things go hideously wrong. There's something off with the tarmac. The Ferrari Roma launch, for example, in Italy, there's chalk all over the roads. So when you tried to put your foot down, the thing just couldn't grip. They told us it was like driving on ice out there, and we all thought they were simply trying to get us to slow down a bit and not endanger ourselves or their property. Actually, they weren't joking at all. That is exactly what it was like driving that car in those conditions. It wasn't really until I got to try the car here a little bit later that I managed to get a full feel for it on proper roads and in the conditions that I'm more used to. And the truth is that even in this day and age, there are still a lot of manufacturers out there that view even small magazines as far more significant and important than anybody you might call influencer. And when it comes to accommodation and luxurious treatment, well, these days, they're actually pretty stingy. Even in the 9 years that I've been doing this, I've seen budgets for advertising dramatically slashed. It's been a long time since I was invited anywhere outside of the United Kingdom for an event, but talk to anybody in the industry from 25 or 30 years ago, and the budgets were ludicrous. People got flown all over the world, did crazy stuff because that's how it worked back then. These days, everybody wants more for less, and influencers are a very good way to get this. And the reality is that all of your favourite car journalists, no matter what publication they were in, 20 years ago, I guarantee you, they got treated a lot better than we do now. The only difference is that they didn't write about which hotel it was they were staying in. They didn't write about what they were having for dinner that night. And I can also tell you that I think in a lot of ways, YouTubers have far greater editorial independence than old school magazines ever did. Because you see, if you're a YouTuber, it's almost unheard of for you to actually be paid directly by a manufacturer. Nearly all of us at some point will do an integration. Hey, look at my NOVE watch. It's brilliant. Buy one. Get money off. Discount down below. Those things, right? Yeah, we get paid to do that. It's how we make a living. Now, at the stage of channel I'm at now, it's a nice bit of extra money that allows me to do nice and interesting things. Presently, it's allowing me to pay all the very large bills for my Honda S2000, which I know you're desperate to hear about, and trust me, I'm desperate to tell you about, but I'll do it when it's ready. For smaller YouTubers, this sort of stuff can be the difference between being able to make a profit one month or not. It's a really big deal. And everybody out there that's got an ad blocker installed, well, shame on you. Ding, because you're depriving YouTubers of their income. And I know you don't like the duration of the adverts. I don't like the duration of the adverts. That's why I have YouTube Premium. But we don't get to set exactly how many adverts they'll play at once to you. I'm really sorry, it's very frustrating. I take out some of the advertisements that YouTube want to put in, as I know to some of my other content creators, like for example, to name just one, Ian from Hubnut. We both look at exactly what Google wants to stuff into our videos and go, no, that's too much. That's really for an American audience that can stomach a huge advert every 2 minutes. UK audiences cannot and will not. But almost without exception, our money, our sponsors are not car companies. They might be associated with car companies, they might provide products to car companies, but they won't be the car companies themselves. And that's really for a very simple reason, because if you take money from a car company to say something about their product, you are beholden to them. You have sold your soul to them. Because once they've paid you, they have a right to say, well, actually, I don't like what you're saying here. And I'm almost certain something like that may have gone on in the case of Jayku. Oh, incidentally, in case you were wondering, JAYEMM apparently is a portmanteau that is half Jäger, the German word for hunter, and cool. That's a rubbish name for a car company. It is sister to the Automotive brand, and as far as I can see, the two will be sharing dealerships for a little while, and they are both export-only brands of the company Chery, a very, very large Chinese manufacturer wholly owned by the Chinese government. Now, I do not wish to get too much into international politics, but I would not want to take money from any car manufacturer to do what some might perceive as a review, and I definitely wouldn't want to take money from a company that is owned by the Chinese government. Why? There are a great many reasons. First off, I'm sure you'll have seen some of them in the news over the last few decades. And more to the point, being pragmatic here, if you were to take money from a company like that with the links that it does, I would expect fairly significant blowback. It's very, very easy in this day and age to get caught out by people or called out for various things. Not too long ago, for example, there was a very large event over in Saudi Arabia, and people made it very, very clear that they weren't all too happy with people going over there and supporting what it is that they were doing. I was offered only last year the opportunity to go over to Europe and view from VIP seating some of the Euros football tournament. Now, I'm not really a football-y person at all, and as soon as I told my sister that I declined the opportunity, she nearly throttled me. But the fact was, there weren't really any cars involved. There was a car maker involved, but I couldn't really see what journalistic benefit this would have had to me at all. Oh, and before anybody does some digging, allow me to save you the time. Yes, I have worked with plenty of car companies myself, and some of them have helped me to do things that might have cost me a lot more money than I eventually wound up paying. Ferrari, for example, helped me with a discount for the parts in my 550 premium build. And I did that as a sort of piece of PR for them, but also because it was something that I wanted to do for the car as well. I paid still an awful lot of money to have the work done. They helped me out, I made a video, and it was me who approached them. Other manufacturers have flown me different places, paid for hotels, meals, that sort of stuff. This is fairly normal. Unless you're Doug DeMuro, he is the most principled man in the entire business and will not even accept a plane ticket from a manufacturer. Personally, I think that is insanity, because having your expenses covered really shouldn't affect you in any way, shape or form. But he wants to be truly independent, and I salute him for that. The simple reality is, though, that in order to get yourself to the stage where you can have that kind of financial independence, you will have probably needed a little bit of help along the way, and in the early days, stuff like this makes a big difference. I know I did a few jobs in the early days where it came down to, are you going to pay for my airport parking? Because if you're not, I don't think I can afford to do this. And the general gist, in case you're wondering, is that you get yourself to the airport, and after that, your expenses are covered. But your opinion is your own, and it should never, ever be for sale. The thing is, though, car magazines are constantly referred to as being somehow more trustworthy than YouTubers. But they have been taking money from manufacturers for decades now. So where a bad review by an influencer could well mean no more press cars, a bad review for a magazine could well mean no more ad revenue. And in a big company, nobody wants to explain to the boss that they've just cost the firm £50,000 in lost advertising. Now, has that changed a few opinions over the years? Well, I'll let you be the judge. And perhaps it is possible to take money from a manufacturer and remain still truly independent. But I'm not convinced. This debate, this discussion between influencers and journalists is going to rage on for a very, very long time. And at the end of the day, the only person who can actually say which is which, or whether it even matters, is you. But I have always liked to think of myself as a journalist. And on occasion, it's cost me quite a bit of money, because there is a possibility I have ruffled a few feathers along the way. And maybe I would have gotten access to a few more cars had I been a little kinder in some of my opinions. And there was a moment where I thought, you know what, actually a few £1,000s in the bank account right now would go an awfully long way. Got a lot of bills to pay, still trying to get myself a mortgage. This would really be very, very helpful right about now. Every influencer knows that January is a particularly lean month, so to get a cash injection of potentially a few grand, well, that's fantastic. That's a very, very good January. But the cost of this? No, that was just going to be a bit too high. And so, why have I made this video? What am I actually saying? Well, it's a simple thing, really. There's going to be a bunch of videos about this event and probably many others from JAYEMM and brands like it. But please pay extra attention to what's going on. Is this influencer putting out a lot more stuff than they ordinarily might? Lists like this, demands like this, they're really unusual. I have done paid promotions with companies that have asked far, far less than this. In fact, any of my sponsors, if they'd asked this amount from me, I would have just said no. This is controlling, this is nuts. This is a company that doesn't even know how to do modern day PR properly. If you're watching and you work for a PR company, by the way that you do it is you go to an influencer, tell them about your product, give them some money, and let them do it. Because we all know how our audience react, we know what they react well to and badly to, and we know how to best sell your product. If you do it right, it will be almost seamless. NOVE Modern 500 discount code in the description below. People won't even know that you've advertised something to them. All right, maybe that sounds a little bit sinister, but you know what I mean. You can be slick about it. And unfortunately, because YouTube is a global platform, there isn't any sort of unified code of ethics or anything like that. It's up to every single individual content creator to say what they think is right, and also, when appropriate, to disclose if some sort of commercial transaction is going on behind the scenes. And unfortunately, when it comes to YouTube, we have that little page promotion bit down in the bottom, but that really doesn't tell you everything you need to know, because trust me, nobody has paid me to make this video. I'll earn my money from all of you watching it. And if you've liked this video, I would urge you, please, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and please share it with all of your friends and maybe even a couple of your enemies too. And I'm sure there are going to be a few people out there that are really, really upset I felt the need to make this video, but as soon as this email came through, I just thought, this is wrong. This is not how business should be done. And I suspect this is the thin end of the wedge. There are a lot of car companies new on the scene in Britain. Some already here, some about to arrive. And they've got a lot of catching up to do. They've got to compete with brands that in some cases have a century of heritage. Brands that in many cases have really earned their reputations. And some others, of course, that have done everything they can in the last few years to just ruin everything, Jaguar. But I think a reputation has to be earned. It should not be bought. What do you think? Answers on a postcard, or even better, in the description down below. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye-bye.